Welcome to another edition of the Body and Mind Show. I am your host, The Mind, and with me is my co-host, The Body. Body, welcome to the show.
Thanks, sir. Well, we're together. We're bonded. We're united until we have the fight of the weekend, and we're united no longer temporarily.
And we are currently united in drinking some of Wayne Gretzky's 99 Canadian whiskey. This is good stuff.
Oh, it's the great stuff.
That's our first review of the day. 99 whiskey. It's great.
Ironically, it says Canadian Whiskey Canadienne. If this is like a former Montreal Canadian who put this together, it could just be La Whiskey Canadienne.
Le Whiskey Canadien for the Club Hockey des Canadiens. So on today's show, we have our usual NFL Week 3 review and also preview of Week 4. Following that, we'll be talking about the MLB pennant races. Where have they gone?
Where are they? I miss you!
Following that, we'll have our fight of the night. Today, it's Anthem Gate.
Hopefully no bottles get broken this evening.
No promises there. After that, since we are football nuts, we will be covering the Canadian Football League as well. So we'll be doing Week 13 of the CFL. And finally, we end it, as we do every week, with our epic and our suck of the week. The one moment we felt this week was epic, and the one moment we felt sucked. So let us begin with good old week number 3 of the National Football League. Starting off with what we thought was going to be the laughable Thursday night game, Rams and San Francisco.
Yeah, Thursday night usually disgusts me. I looked at the teams. We were calling it must-miss TV. Most entertaining game of the week. It was fantastic. It was a little sloppy, but it was fantastic to watch.
It was. This turned out to be the glamour match of the week. Unbelievable. It was basically a race for 80. It felt like a college game.
It did. And it looked like a high school game with those uniforms. Actually, we talked about this off the air last week. It's not the jerseys, it's the matching pants. The pants need the contrast.
That's the whole issue I've always had with this color rush thing, is that the entire uniform is all one color. It's the jersey, the pants, the socks, the shoes. I swear to God, the whole thing is just one solid color.
Mm-hmm. And Jared Goff, who I've made fun of, looks like he's developing into a solid NFL quarterback. And even Brian Hoyer looked good last week. It was an incredible game.
It was an amazing game. It was a feast to watch. Who would have thunk that the Rams and the Giants would be the team you want to...
Oh, the Rams and the 49ers?
The Rams and 49ers. What did I say?
Giants. I think you were in shock.
I'm still in shock. That's why I'm drinking the whiskey.
Getting over the madness of last Thursday.
But who would have thought this would be the game that you would want to basically showcase the NFL to the world?
I never would have thought so.
Well done. Kudos to both teams. You're both winners.
Well done.
Next, we have Baltimore and Jacksonville.
Baltimore, ill-prepared, didn't even visit Wembley Stadium during the week. Didn't even get it in. They're ill-prepared. Jacksonville, they know the London deal. They've been doing it for years now.
You might as well call them the London Jaguars, quite frankly.
You know, I joke they were America's team because there is a broadcaster in the States who calls them America's team.
Yeah.
But no, they are now London's team.
Yeah.
London's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are Europe's team. The whole continent should embrace them.
I hear Super Bowl. If you have a whole continent behind you, how can you go wrong?
Well, exactly.
That's surprising, though, that Baltimore just was that unbelievably unprepared for this game. That is just shocking.
Even talked to another coach who's previously been there and asked them how they prepare for it.
Yeah, exactly. Next, we have Denver and Buffalo. Denver with the shocking loss to Buffalo. I don't know if anyone had predicted this even being a possibility.
No, I only heard one person predict it, Gil Brandt on NFL radio.
All right.
Former Dallas Cowboy GM and vice president, I believe, back in the Tom Landry days. Other than that, no one. I couldn't picture anyone moving the ball on Denver.
Well, that's what I figured. I figured with just their defense, it didn't even really matter what their offense does. Their defense is just going to shut out the other team. And the Denver offense, at least in the last couple of years, has proven that they're capable of at least moving the ball and getting enough points to secure a victory.
What did you think of Von Miller and that? Hey, how are you? No, I'm not giving you a hand up. I thought it was funny. I don't get the flag. That was a little much for taunting.
That was another case of the no fun league sticking its nose where it don't belong. Like that was just sickening that they even got a penalty for that. And it was even obvious between the two players that they both thought it was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, after Von Miller did his badoop with the whole hand, and he's looking back, he's laughing at Tyrod. Tyrod's laughing at him. He gets the joke. Mm-hmm. Everybody got the joke. Those two got it. The fans in the stadium got it. All the other players, the zillions of people, the millions and the millions watching on television got it. The only person that didn't get it was the ref standing right there watching the whole thing.
And that's too bad because the NFL has made progress with leniency on celebrations this year.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that
was disappointing.
I'm hoping that's one of those where they give that ref a boot in the head and prevent and no more such penalties in the future. Next, we've got probably a team that wish there was a bunch of penalties called, Carolina and New Orleans.
How'd you not score in New Orleans? I mean, I'm 46 years old, overweight, and unathletic, and I'm breaking free from the Saints secondary right now as we speak. I don't know what's of Carolina's offense. Credit Drew Brees and their offense are, going against a good Carolina defense on the road, though.
Well, it definitely looks like, at least for one game, that the grand plan of New Orleans for this year, kill them with offense, finally worked. Mm-hmm. The dual running attack, their phenomenal passing game, everything worked to basically keep Carolina on their heels, and never allowed the Panthers to really get going in any regard whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Next, we got Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Man, what an upset there! Didn't see that coming. We'll talk more about this during Anthem Gate, which is probably most of the stuff to talk about this game. And Marcus Cooper on the blocked field goal. Yeah.
Leon Lett lives?
Yes, Leon Lett lives. Cross the end zone. Act like you've been there before. And it's not like Marcus the Cooper's been there much in his life. I don't even know if he had a touchdown before this week or not. It's like, man, just you're dying to win a football game. Just get there.
Well, it's I don't get it. It's like, even if, it's like, even if you can't pretend like he's been there before, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for me, it's like, if I scored my very first NFL touchdown, it's like, yeah, first step one, cross the line.
Yeah, you could act up after that, but cross the line
step
first.
Number two, I'd be like swimming in the end zone. I'd be rolling around. I'd pretend like it'd be like Uncle Scrooge McDuck. I'd pretend like I'd have like thousands of dollar bills under me and I'm swimming in the money. Like, that's what I'd be doing in the end zone. The refs would probably give me an over celebration penalty and then sportsmanlike conduct on myself or something. But yeah, it's like, for at least cross the end zone. If we learn nothing from our favorite son there, now playing in Tampa Bay, you know what I'm talking about. Former Philadelphia.
Oh, Deshaun Jackson.
Jackson.
Oh, that was class.
He should have learned from his lesson.
Oh, man, should have. Yeah, you have Deshaun Jackson, Leon Lett, and then you see stuff in college once in a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, just get across the goal line first.
Just get across the goal line. Then you can go nuts. Then you can celebrate all day, all night.
Mm-hmm. Finish the play.
The step one, cross the goal line.
Yeah, finish the play.
But Chicago, I have to say, I actually was not that surprised about this one. It is why in my survivor pool, I stayed away from it, because I thought Chicago at home, and they haven't looked that bad in the previous two games. I wasn't that surprised, and apparently Pittsburgh has not been playing well on road games for like the last couple of years.
No, and Pittsburgh's been playing down to their opposition. They don't play well against so-called bad teams, especially on the road. And Pittsburgh now, if I'm correct, I believe 1-12 in Chicago in their existence.
And that's the thing. Usually, so there's the Chicago factor, obviously, for Pittsburgh. But usually when a team starts playing down to their opposition's level, that's usually a sign of a bad team. Because only bad teams do things like that. Usually good teams don't do that.
Or maybe a badly coached team.
I don't know. Well,
I like Tomlin, but
you would think the coaching has got to be good because he's won, what, 2 Super Bowls there?
He has.
So you figure he's got to be a good coach. Otherwise, you don't win Super Bowls by accident.
But great teams smash.
That's the thing. Like eventually,
teams.
Eventually, things come to an end, right? Mm-hmm. And great teams smash, and there was no Hulk smash here.
Back to Tomlin, I think he's one of those guys because some people say he is awful. I wouldn't say that, and some people think he's great. I think it's in the middle because you can't dispute the Super Bowls. He's a very good coach, but at the same time, I don't know if I'd go as far as great because great coaches don't let this happen against bad teams as frequently as they do. I think he's a good, solid coach and a good, solid team and a really good organization.
Oh yeah, well that all is true because Pittsburgh has been pretty much a model of consistency throughout their entire existence, really. Mm-hmm. Like this isn't really a franchise. It's had a lot of the lows. It's been pretty much consistently contender almost every year, pretty much.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting how they recover from this. The game that we thought was going to be the glamour match of the week, and it turned out to be a pretty good game, Atlanta-Detroit.
It was, and I don't know what to make of that last play there.
So go through that play.
Okay, so it was Golden Tate. He had caught a pass. It was the last play of the game. He gets tackled inside the 1 yard line, right near the goal line. They go to review. They decide he had not scored the touchdown. There was 8 seconds left on the clock. There was no timeouts for Detroit. But with the review comes the 10-second runoff.
The mandatory runoff.
The mandatory 10-second runoff. Because they judged that they wouldn't have been able to, the rule was in apparently because they figured in a spot like that a team wouldn't be able to get up there and snap the ball. I think it would have been tough, but they may have had a shot. You don't have to go too far up the field to snap it. They were already well in the red zone. I can't remember what yard line they were at.
Yeah.
And Percy would have just lined up and tried to run a sneak. I don't know if they would have got off on time, but with the 10-second runoff, no chance.
No, because 8 seconds left, 10-second runoff, game was over. They literally did not even have a chance to even try. Mm-hmm. Now the extra bit of controversy here is that I've heard reports that apparently that the time clock should have actually had 11 seconds left, not 8. So technically there should have actually been 1 second left that they could have ran that play on. So they should have actually had a shot at doing one more play.
I'm even madder now because I did bet on Detroit to win.
Yep. It literally sounds like the timekeeper, the timekeeping was off. So terribly controversial. This is as a horrifying way to end what was a really good game.
Yes, and a really important game.
Yeah.
They're all important, but if Detroit wins, they go into Minnesota 3-0 this week. Mm-hmm. Now they're going in 2-1, and if they lose, they go to 2-2, and you start wondering if things start sliding off momentum.
That'll be interesting to see. Next we have Cleveland, Indianapolis.
Is there anything to say here about this classic Titanic heavyweight tilt?
Somebody had to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that's all that needs to be said.
Next, we got Tampa, Minnesota.
Who knew Case Keenum was the Tampa Bay killer? Watching the game at the beginning, they start reeling off how Case Keenum has just destroyed Tampa Bay. The other part of it, too, is Tampa's defense is just destroyed with injuries going in. Chris Baker, a really good defensive tackle. Quan Alexander, their best tackling linebacker. I think Brent Grimes, one of their top corners, is out. And then on top of that, too, Jameis Winston has not had a very good history against top 5 defenses. He could score bunches of points or he could be shut down. He's still young yet, but right now he doesn't have a good history against top 5 defenses.
So you figure that was basically the deciding factor in this one is that he just faced a great D, and he didn't know how to get around it.
That, the injuries, and the Case Keenum Tampa Bay killer, those 3 things.
Yeah, that is insanity. Who would have thought that Case Keenum would be like a dominant force against anyone?
No kidding. He looked really impressive.
I thought Case Keenum would lose even against a collection agency.
You had no case?
Boom. Next, we had the shootout of the week, Houston and New England.
I think every week New England might be an over. Except for this week, they face Carolina who can't score. But I mean, New England can score in bunches, and they can't really seem to stop anyone right now. Their defense is a concern at the moment. No real pass rush.
That is the surprising thing, is that New England in the past, they've always had good, capable defenses to go with their phenomenal offense. But this year, so far, it looks like no such thing is there. How long can New England survive like this?
It's a good question. And one thing about last year, I heard this a week or two ago, and I can't remember the numbers, so I won't bring them up. But a surprising amount of the offenses that New England faced last year were lower ranked most of the year. So maybe this defense, it was good enough to step up for a couple of key games last year, but over the long haul may have not been as good as people thought. And maybe the truth is coming out now, or maybe just the losses of guys like Ninkovich and the Hightower injury and that, it's catching up with them.
So could this be a case that New England is starting to slowly turn into New Orleans?
Hard to say. It's one of those things that Belichick's pedigree is on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see if they turn into the Saints or if they start progressively turning it around as the season goes on.
All right.
That'll be an interesting question.
That'll be interesting to watch then. Deshaun Watson, surprised by his play?
Kind of was, yeah.
Because they always say Deshaun Watson, rookie QBs do not do well against New England. He did pretty good.
He did fantastic, yeah. Put up 33 points.
Yeah.
Did pretty much what he wanted to.
So, yeah, there might be more to him than meets the eye right now.
I thought he was a good pick. I just thought playing for O'Brien in Houston might restrict him. But no, it looks like O'Brien's letting him go, so yeah, it could turn out well.
Good times. Next, we have Miami and the Jets.
I think Miami's travel caught up to them, because I don't know if they'd even been home since Hurricane Irma. And if they'd been home maybe briefly to check in, they had to go to the Chargers or the Clippers that 1 week. Then they come back to play the Jets. That's a lot of wear and tear and travel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That one going in, I think I mentioned last week, I didn't have the confidence to take the Jets, but it was a game. If the Jets had a chance to pull off a win, it could very well be that one, and it turned out to be the case.
So the Jets, do you figure, are they actually, for real, a competitive team, or was it just a one-time fluke deal?
Oh, no, it might be a two-time fluke deal because they have this good fortune coming again, possibly, and we'll mention that when we talk about
We'll be talking about that soon, yeah. All right. So next we have another divisional rivalry game, the Giants and Philadelphia.
The Giants showed up just in time to just, finish 0-3. I mean, they started slow. They came on strong at the end, but they're still 0-3. Can the offense move efficiently now? Can they protect Eli? We'll see, but 0-3 isn't... it's a horrible start.
So do you think that this is a case that the Giants' offense, everything finally clicked into place in that fourth quarter, or was this more of a case of the Philadelphia already being comfortable and just relaxing?
Philadelphia went in with 4 members of their secondary missing. So they were probably even short defensive back, especially when they went to the nickel and dime and that. So we will see.
So you figured it was just a case of the Philadelphia secondary just slowly wearing down in the second half, basically, and the Giants taking advantage of that?
I think so, but Philly does have a really good front four, so they eventually did have to hold up and get Eli sometime. So that will be the thing to see how well the offensive line holds up.
All right. And Odell celebration, did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught it.
First. Thoughts? Do you agree with it? For those that don't know, he basically, after his first touchdown, decided to make like a dog and take a pee on the Philadelphia Eagles logo in the end zone.
Yeah, there's worse things, but considering your team has had trouble scoring this year, I don't know if taking a 15-yard penalty is not a good idea at any time.
Yeah.
In a division game, even worse. In a game you need early in the year to finally get your first win, even worse. when you have had trouble scoring and you need all the yardage you can get.
Worse.
The guy's an incredibly talented player, but just a head case, in my opinion.
I was most surprised that McAdoo didn't seem to actually discipline him at all on the sidelines.
What does McAdoo know about discipline? Walking around with that 70s porn mustache like he does?
Yeah.
He looks just absolutely clueless to me.
Yeah,
I don't trust a person walking around with a 70s porn mustache.
All right, no more pornos for you. Speaking of porno, Seattle, Tennessee.
I was preparing for the game.
Seattle, Tennessee.
Oh, man.
What do you think of that one? Russell Wilson, should he have a will?
He should, yeah.
So far, he's survived 3 weeks of that O-line, but should he have a living will right now?
He should have a living will, and it's a good thing he's making NFL money and they have medical teams there, because if it wasn't for that, this guy would single-handedly be making a case for single-payer medical care in the States. He's just taking a beating. I'm surprised he's not hurt or injured. He's shown me a lot of toughness. But that offense, you can't get going if you can't keep them upright.
Now, there's the one surprising part is that despite his brutal offensive line, they put up monster amount of points.
Yeah, it was better this week than other weeks, but I mean, it was more of a smash mouth game. Tennessee really hammered them with the running game.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably more of the story. Seattle generally good against the run. But man, this is the difference. Tennessee's offensive line is outstanding, and they just mauled them.
Next, we have Cincinnati, Green Bay.
Game kind of, well, we didn't know what to expect. You had a good point last week when you talked about Cincy coming off the offensive coordinator change and the borderline team mutiny. I'm not sure what to make of this. I know Green Bay won the game, but is Cincinnati turning it around? And Green Bay, they're 2-1 now, but that was kind of a shaky win. So do you chalk it up as against a good Cincy team and they're okay, or is this the same old Packers, which is a good regular season team, but not as serious a contender as everyone thinks? And of course, it's Cincy coming around. So lots of questions with both teams, in my opinion, after this game.
Yeah, it was an interesting game because it was obvious that Cincy got some kind of boost from convincing Marvin Lewis to fire their previous offensive coordinator. So now it'll be a case of, is this a one-game only, one-time boost for Cincinnati? Or, is this actually the beginning of a renewed offensive attack?
And that division, they're not out of it. Pittsburgh's 2-1, but they're not a convincing 2-1.
No, they're not. Yeah.
Baltimore's not a convincing 2-1. Cleveland's Cleveland. So even at 0-3, Cincy really is not out of it yet because they're just starting division play. Well, no, did they lose to Baltimore? Who did they lose to week 1? Either way, it's still early in the season. They're not out of it.
Yeah. Well, it definitely is, I think, the first time in many years, a decade, maybe more, that division actually looks to be up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even put Cleveland out of it yet.
I would. None of their quarterbacks have won a start in the NFL. But maybe once they win one.
You know how you get experience, my friend? Through experience.
Well, next they need to experience success.
Speaking of experience, the Clippers are next.
Oh.
Kansas City in a divisional matchup against the LA Chargers.
Well, nothing to see here. Pretty much what we expected.
Yeah.
Chiefs go in, take care of business.
Yep, another loss for the Clippers. What was not expected was a bit of a shocking result in the Sunday night game, Oakland, Washington.
This was depressing as a Raider fan. I expected Washington to put up points. I thought this was going to be an over. I said last week I thought Washington had a shot to win this game, but I kind of liked Oakland. But I wasn't. But I expected if Washington won, it was going to be like 27-24. The score was actually flattering to Oakland. It could have been 40-3 if it wasn't for a couple special teams muffs by Washington. It's the only thing that made Oakland even look that respectable. Washington just beat them up. The offense did nothing. Just nothing.
Now, there's the thing. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody's had lots of criticisms. You've had criticism against the Oakland defense. But pretty much everyone's been quite confident that their offense will at least score plenty points. It's just a question of, will their offense score enough points that to outdo the amount that their defense will give up?
Well, the defense played down to their expectations this week.
Yeah, it was. So it'll be interesting to see if this is like, again, like we've spoken with some of these other teams that happened this week. Is this a one-time thing?
Or is this a trend? Sometimes teams find a blueprint.
Yeah.
Washington just lined up, played zone, and punched them in the face. And if that turns out to be a trend, that could be a disturbing trend.
That seems to be like a lot of the theme for this entire week's games is this a trend or is this the one-time fluke?
Mm-hmm.
More to come. The last game of the week, we got Dallas and Arizona. Thoughts on that one?
Dallas looks like they're back. Elliott picked up 80 yards. It wasn't his 100, but I know Arizona is selling out at times to stop the run and make them throw the ball. That Arizona offensive line, just dreadful. Dallas getting there with the three-man pass rush like we were talking about.
Well, the three-man.
Three whipping five. Carson Palmer sacked 6 times.
Yeah, this was a game that I found it to be an impressive game on the side of Dallas because it was one of those games where in the first half it was fairly balanced, fairly even. Dallas, in fact, actually took a little longer to get going. Mm-hmm. But as the game wore on, you could tell that Dallas was slowly assuming control. More and more as the game wore on, as Dallas was controlling the game. And sure enough, in the second half, it was pretty much like Dallas had full control of the game, defense, offense, working in harmony. And by the fourth quarter, like, there was nothing left for Arizona.
Yeah, Carson Palmer took a beating. He was dropping like a Kennedy.
Yeah. Oh, boom, snap. And that is our Week 3 NFL review. We never said this show is politically correct.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Next, we have Week 4 NFL preview. So, yeah, we won't start in Washington after that comment, or Dallas. So let's go somewhere safe where no one gets hurt, except maybe the fans from Frostbite, and that's Chicago and Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this game. I think it'll be a pretty good game. I don't know if Chicago could stick with Green Bay, but I think it'll be an interesting game anyways.
All right. Good divisional. Should be a fun divisional game.
Oldest rivalry in the NFL. Is it the oldest rivalry or they've played the most? It's one of the two.
Let's say oldest.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. We don't let facts get in the way of a good story here.
That's our motto. Next, we have New Orleans and Miami.
Love the Saints. Miami. If they've been home this week, it's not for long. So that constant travel we were talking about to the Jets last week, and it continues this week going to England. So even if they've stopped at home, it may be long enough to realize that they'd like to stay home for a while. I see it wearing on them. I love the Saints in this game.
Yeah, it's that is a legitimately good point because you obviously this will be the one that you hope that Miami obviously with the travel woes, they're definitely the underdog right away just because of all the travel stuff.
And only a very slight underdog, 2.5.
That's surprising. And now you got to wonder though, as we mentioned with the Jacksonville Baltimore game, will both these teams be properly prepared to go into this London game?
That's a good question too.
So next we got Buffalo, Atlanta. Do we care?
Not really.
No.
I like Atlanta. I think Buffalo could be competitive, but Atlanta's just too much at home.
Atlanta wins. Next, we got Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Man, this used to be a feature game of the week, and I think it'll be good, but I just don't care about this game as much as I used to, and I'm not sure what to make of either of these teams right now.
Yeah, but you got two teams trying to recover from big losses.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be the question here is it's obviously, it's another one of those. Like, is it a trend, one-time thing, the last week's loss? That's a question that's going to be answered in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Really, to be convincing, one of these teams has to win and win convincingly. If it's just a squeaker of a win, I think the questions continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have a weird gut feeling it just kind of popped up maybe Baltimore, but I'm not sure yet.
Speaking of glamour matches, not Cincy Cleveland.
What did the state of Ohio do to deserve this?
That is true. That is true.
We'll find out about Cincy, because if you can't beat Cleveland, no, Cleveland, we'll see if there's, I mean, they stuck in there with Indy. They had a good first week. We'll see.
This is another one of those somebody has to win games.
There might even be questions for these teams after this week.
Somebody has to win.
Somebody has to win.
Somebody has to win. What about the Rams, the suddenly high-powered, high-scoring Rams and Dallas?
Chris Collinsworth had a great line about the Rams this week. The greatest show on surf.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like Dallas at home. I think this is the Rams' first road game. Or did they go to San Fran this week? They were in San Fran.
They were in San Fran.
Yeah, second road game. I like Dallas, but I think they're a 7-point favorite. And that to me is, I don't know. I don't think Dallas should be that big a favorite.
Okay. Yeah. A good Rams team. Dallas too heavily favored. This should be a fun one to watch, actually.
I think it will be.
Tennessee, Houston.
Should be a really good game. I'm not sure what to make of it yet, though. It'll be interesting.
Another divisional rivalry game, so those are always fun to watch. They usually are at least mean.
Mm-hmm. Houston's offensive line has been a problem, though. Another team with a problem offensive line. But Watson kind of could negate that with his mobility.
So that's the question, can Deshaun Watson put up points against Tennessee's defense?
And both these teams like to be physical, so it'll be fun to watch.
And so it'll be interesting because Tennessee, although their offense is better, but they are facing against a fearsome Houston defense, and defense is everything for Houston, or at least it was until last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, this should be a good, close blood and guts match.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, Minnesota, another divisional game.
Be interesting to see which Case Keenum shows up. Stafford hasn't played great against great defenses, but this will be an interesting game. I think both teams need this pretty bad. Minnesota wants to keep winning. We don't know when Bradford's back. Detroit, a loss this week could be a momentum swing after they start 2-0 after that heartbreaking loss to Atlanta. If they go in and lose a division game, does it swing momentum against them?
That's true. We've seen that happen before, where a team get off to a great start after a couple of even like last minute losses, even low scoring, whatever, tight losses. Momentum shifts completely around.
Minnesota's lights out at home, though. They're really good there, but I think it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, so another good one to watch here. Carolina and New England. Will this be any good to watch?
If you're a New England fan. I mean, I guess anything could happen, and we've been stunned before, but I don't see Carolina sticking up the points.
Yeah, so that looks like to be the issue. Even though there's been criticism on New England's defense, like Carolina, you could have the worst defense in the world, but if the other team can't put up any offense, it still a concern?
Yeah, well, Carolina couldn't move the ball efficiently against the Saints at home, so I don't know how they're going to do going into Foxborough.
Yeah, so it looks like this one should be a pretty easy walk win for New England.
Mm-hmm. There's reports that Cam Newton still looks banged up, too. I don't know if he is or not, but...
Right. Yeah. So next we have Jacksonville and the Jets. Jets, streak. Yeah.
No one's talking about the fact that Jacksonville's coming back from England without a bye week, and they're a 3.5-point favorite.
Isn't there like labor laws against such things?
I have a conspiracy theory though, just in fun, but it's interesting. Jacksonville's coming back from London. And who's the U.S. ambassador to the UK? Why? It's Jets owner Woody Johnson.
Oh,
conspiracy!
Whoa! Dr. Evil.
I think Jacksonville's a better team, but because of the travel, I'm taking the Jets in an upset.
Wow! Look at the Jets evening their record. Who'd have thunk?
Who would have thunk? They still have to do it yet. They're capable of blowing it nonetheless. I'm going to take a shot on them.
Going into the season, the only time anyone figured the Jets would have a 500 record was before they played their first game.
I bet them to go 0-16. They've already snapped that.
That is true.
And we're not even out of September. By the way, how do you schedule a team to play and then on top of that, play on the road a week after they've been on another continent across the ocean?
Yeah, that's some bad scheduling. That is definitely bad scheduling. Jacksonville ownership should really do some arm twisting on the NFL schedule committee on that one.
Well, his mustache is already twisted, so he's on his way.
Next, we have San Francisco and Arizona. One team coming off an incredible offensive output, and the other team coming off an incredible offense.
Incredibly offensive to watch their offense. Yeah, I don't know what to, because Brian Hoyer, I'm not a fan of his, but some weeks he's good, some weeks he's awful. I think a lot of it is, how does Brian Hoyer look this week?
That's a good question. So Carson Palmer, can he rebound, or is this kind of the end for him?
That offensive line keeps playing like that. It'll be the end of him.
That is true.
Yeah, that game's a hard one to make out.
I'd say this would be a more critical game for Arizona.
I would too, because San Fran's just trying to rebuild.
Yeah, they're rebuilding.
Arizona's trying to take their last kick of the cat of contention.
Yeah. So this is a huge match for Arizona. They can't afford to lose this one.
No. Though that division, 9-7, may win it this year.
That is true. Next, we got Philadelphia and the Clippers. Do we even care about this game?
Not really.
No? So let's skip it.
I think it'll be entertaining, but there's not much to talk about.
Giants and Tampa Bay.
Check the Tampa Bay injury report, because if they are banged up as they were last week, I think the Giants have a chance now that they're finally moving the ball. And we did discuss Winston's difficulty scoring against top defenses. Mind you, it's different scoring against the top defense on the road and at home. So I think Tampa's the better team, but maybe just look at, again, the Tampa Bay injury situation before Sunday if you're looking at making a pick on this.
All right.
Possible upset special.
Check the injuries, and if too many Tampa injuries, possible New York upset.
Mm-hmm.
Another divisional rivalry, Oakland and Denver. This should be the glamour match of the week.
This should be the best game of the week, and both teams coming off disappointing losses. Needing this game in the group of death, because the Chefs are still unbeaten. They're both 2-1.
Yep.
This isn't just for staying in division. This could even have wild card implications down the road, depending what goes on in other divisions. This will be a huge game. This will be an outstanding game to watch.
Do you think in the end this will be high scoring, or is this going to be a low scoring 13-12?
I don't think
fist to the face type game.
I think somewhere in the middle. Like I'm thinking, like 23-17.
All right. So this is definitely the one to watch. On the opposite end of that, we have Indianapolis and Seattle.
Sunday night looking like what a Thursday night usually looks like.
My God, how did this happen? This is must-miss TV.
Obviously, when this is scheduled, it was, Andrew Luck going into Seattle. And it would have been interesting if he was healthy, because I saw a thing a couple of years ago where Luck has a unique voice where the pitch actually cuts through the crowd noise. So it would have been a good matchup, but he's not there, and that's irrelevant. And the weird thing is, I don't see Indy doing anything there, but...
It should be a Seattle walk, should it not?
Yeah, it should be. I see Seattle winning. The question is it the walk it should look like? I mean, they only beat San Fran, 9-6 last week?
That's true.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting. Finally, our Monday nighter, we get Washington and Kansas City. Will this be the game that Kansas City finally loses?
No.
Everyone else in that division has lost, except for KC.
Yeah, I don't think it will be. I mean, it'll be tough for Washington to repeat what they did against Oakland. And you're going into Arrowhead this time. It's not at home. I mean, never say never, but I don't like Washington's chances there.
So the Arrowhead factor trumps pretty much anything that Washington can do right now.
Well, I mean, Philly played there better than I expected, but this is Monday night, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so after Monday at work, Chefs fans have time to get their glow on before Monday night.
Doubt
And
it.
Chefs fans reputably seem to pick it up a notch for primetime games. Seems to be when they try to break their noise records there. The
Yeah,
most, too.
yeah. Monday night football game in Kansas City. I predict about 65,000 people are going to be calling in sick that day.
They need to get better in the parking lot
Exactly.
with smoked ribs and beer.
I think the tailgating will be starting at like 6 in the morning. Go Chefs.
Go Chefs.
And with that, that is our NFL Week 4 preview. Next on the show, we'll be talking about Major League Baseball. Pennant races.
Where are they?
Where have they gone?
I miss you.
Is anyone talking about a pennant race nowadays?
There are none. I mean, what, New York and Boston, one's going to be the what? And I think the magic number might be low there. But what's left? The Cubs are just about done in the NL Central. So, I mean...
Yeah, the Cubs are only one game away from clinching it.
Even the wild card races are just about done.
And nowadays, that's really like all I ended up actually hearing about is people talking about the wild card race. Like I hear talk about the wild card race all the time, and I see how many games out a team is, who's still in contention. But yeah, definitely seems to be an afterthought now.
It's ironic because the wild card was brought in to add to excitement late in the year because teams would be out of pennant races.
Right.
But it seems to have worked in reverse. Because now we have more divisions, and just the way it's split up, and the wild card, there's not as much of a premium. There just hasn't been as much for great pennant races.
Yeah, that is interesting because that is definitely something that before that's all anyone would talk about is these great pennant races coming, and how many games, this, that. But yeah, I think it is, as you're saying, the product of having more divisions and more playoff spots. Mm-hmm. That, yeah, everyone is focusing on people getting into the playoffs. They're focusing more on that rather than who's actually winning a division, who's winning a pennant.
Pennant races used to be historical, even for teams that didn't end up winning championships in the end.
That's true. They were. Like, the pennant races themselves would be like major news ahead of anything else. So I think, definitely the unintended consequence of having these wild card races has taken away from the magic of the good old pennant race.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely not our fight of the week.
But what is Anthem Gate.
Panama!
I have my mustache ready to go.
Just like Sal Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Is mine that sexy?
I do not judge out loud.
So, as obviously everyone is probably incredibly aware by now, over the weekend, the vast majority of NFL players decided to protest during the singing of the American national anthem by doing a whole variety of different things. The one thing that most did not do was actually stand and pay respect to the anthem. You're okay with this, though?
I'm okay with it to some degree. I believe there's one of two ways you can go, because there's some people who believe there shouldn't be politics in sports. I think you either go one way or the other, because I believe there is a platform. Muhammad Ali's proven over the years. Others have proven it. Jim Brown, Bill Russell, historically, especially with the civil rights movement in the United States. And even non-politically, just things like J.J. Watt helping raise money for the hurricane relief in Houston and that. So there is a place for it. But there's some people who are against it, and I can understand how some people want their sports and their politics separate. But I'm a believer it's one way or the other. It's if you want it out of there, you don't have what you want in there conveniently. For example, if you want it out of there, then it should be out of there. Don't give me, we don't do this during the national anthem. If you want it out there, get rid of the national anthem too. You're either for it or against it, not for it when it's convenient for you. And I'll actually get more into specifics about how I feel about NFL owners in this later in the show during the segment.
That'll be coming up during the Epic and Suck of the Week.
Oh, it will.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side, obviously, where I don't like the idea of having politics and sports mixing. For me, sports is an escape, and it is something you go do. Or really entertainment in general, whether it's sports, whether it's going to a concert, whether it's going to a movie. You know, I go to these things to escape, to just unwind. And I think most people feel the same, where you just want to go there, you want to forget about what's going on in your day, whatever. If you've had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad year, at least for those 3-4 hours that you're at the game, you forget about all that stuff. And the only thing you're focused right now is on the game. You enjoy it. Life is good. Having the idea of somebody wants to protest, it's like, sure, it's your right to do that. But I figured if these NFL players, if they really want to protest, because really the protest this weekend was a protest against Donald Trump, not so much for what Colin Kaepernick was intending, which would be to bring awareness to police violence against black people in general. So instead of that, kind of got lost in the whole thing, which is one of the things I find disappointing in it all, because it was literally just a slight on Donald Trump. And I figured that if you really wanted to protest, if these NFL players were really that intent on protesting their hatred of Donald Trump and what he said about them, and calling them SOBs, that was not good. That was unwise.
It's just Trump being Trump.
That was basically a poor choice of words. Extremely poor choice of words.
By him.
But I figured if these players really wanted to make a statement against the President of the United States, instead of making some of them doing some pretty ridiculous antics, like LaShawn McCoy of Buffalo, who was doing all kinds of unbelievably stupid and, for me, ignorant things during the anthem. He was there stretching, he was there running in place, and then he was there in the middle of the field, like in center field, doing this nonsense, like kneeling, all the rest of it. So it's obvious he was putting on a show. He wanted to be seen.
Yeah, that sounds like attention for me more than anything.
That's what it was. And so I found that to be pretty sickening. And so I figured if you really want to make a statement, on Tuesday, following the Monday night game, I say every NFL player should have got on a plane, flown down to Washington, D.C., and all stand in front of the White House and protest there. So let's see however many players, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 players in the NFL, all of you go to Washington and protest in front of the White House for the whole day on Tuesday. That would get attention. And now you're protesting right on the front lawn of the man's house.
Trump would probably say he invited him.
He would spin it.
You would.
It would work out for him in the end, no matter what. But yeah,
I invited him because Stephen Curry wouldn't come.
But yes, for me, let's try to keep politics and sports separated. As the Offspring would say, you got to keep them separated.
I'm good with either or. It's just I think it's one or the other, not just involve them when it's convenient. And I think a lot of people fall into that.
Yeah.
They don't want them there, but then...
The end result of this might just be that sooner than we expect, the anthem just might vanish from sporting events.
Well, that's my thing. If you get rid of the anthem and everything and just completely eliminate everything, I'm fine with it. It's the having it serve you when it's convenient. We don't want anything political there, but we're going to push. And I'm not saying that the military doesn't deserve those service days they get from the NFL. I think it's a good thing. But really the reason is because the NFL makes money off it, not for the good of the military service people.
So that is our fight of the week.
Come on.
So yeah, you can vote on comment section, I guess, who you thought won the fight. Next, we have a CFL review. So Canadian Football League fans, we are reviewing Week 13 in the Canadian Football League this week. So we had, as every week, we had 4 games. And And yeah, we had some interesting scores this week. So the first one we'll look at is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Ottawa Red Blacks. So Winnipeg won 29-9. So this was a case where Winnipeg came into this game. Actually, both teams came into this game 4-1 in their last 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 hot teams. The only difference being that Winnipeg was mostly healthy, with the exception of missing their top defensive lineman.
Was it Ryan Lindley starting at quarterback for Ottawa?
And for Ottawa is Ryan Lindley.
So we've officially found he cannot start as a quarterback in any league.
In any league. Nope. Ryan Lindley, for those of you who are like, I don't know, that name sounds familiar for some reason. That's because he was drafted by the Cardinals in 20-12 and made 6 starts for them. And after bouncing around in San Diego, New England, and Indianapolis, he showed up in Ottawa and has now made his first official CFL start and put up a grand total of 9 points.
9 points.
So yeah, so Ryan Lindley, he could probably tell you the relative softness or lack thereof of Winnipeg Stadium because he spent a lot of time on his back. Next, we have Toronto beating Montreal 33-19. So this is a game where Montreal is in complete disarray right now. 0-5 coming into this game in their last 5 games. Basically, their starting quarterback, Darian Durant, who has been a CFL All-Star for the better part of a decade with Saskatchewan Roughriders, has basically forgotten how to play quarterback.
Well, he was struggling his last year to Saskatchewan, wasn't he? A bit.
The last couple of years, Saskatchewan, he had some injury issues, some kind of freak injuries, and Saskatchewan decided that they were going to go on a youth movement. And yeah, it's possible that Coach Jones there in Saskatchewan kind of saw the writing on the wall, kind of a Belichick-like preemptive strike to get him out of there before he completely fell apart. And the Montreal offense is struggling. He got taken out of the game early.
It's Kavis Reed running Montreal, right?
Now it is. He stepped down from his GM role and to become the coach as well.
Well, I don't think he's much of a coach or a GM, so that explains a lot. There's Montreal's trouble there. And a banged-up veteran quarterback, and I'm just not a Kavis Reed fan.
Well, part of the issue that he faced this week is for Toronto. They have James Wilder Jr., who literally ran over them for 141 yards rushing and another 77 passing yards.
James Wilder Jr.? Like related to, would James Wilder Sr. be the old Tampa Bay running back?
Boom.
Oh, James Wilder was awesome. I remember James Wilder. I'm getting old.
Apparently his son is just as good. So yeah, James Wilder Jr., over 200 yards total. Basically a one-man gang running roughshod over Montreal.
Giving Ricky Ray a running game now, that's a scary proposition.
Passing and now some running.
Don't write off the Argos down the stretch.
And especially not in that Eastern Division, which you don't even need a 500 record to win in that division.
You just need to show up.
Because right now, Toronto is literally in first place in the East with a 6-7 record. And there's only 5 games to go.
Oh man, 6 wins, 7 losses. If they were in the West, they would barely be in 4th and barely crossing over into the East because the CFL does have a crossover system.
They would be dead last if they were in the West.
Yes, they would be tied with BC.
BC has a 6-7 record, and they are bottom of that division.
Bottom of the West, top of the East.
Top of the East, top of the morning, Ma. Next, we have Saskatchewan and Calgary. So these are actually 2 pretty hot teams coming into this. Saskatchewan 4-1 in the last 5 games. They started the season slow, but they have been red hot over the last 7-8 games. But this one was a tight, old-fashioned, no forward pass, blood and guts affair. Calgary wins it 15-9. Pretty much all field goals in this one.
15 the hard way. Yeah.
So this one was a surprise because both teams, well, Calgary with Bo Levi Mitchell as a quarterback, just puts up pretty much by default 35 points a game. And Saskatchewan, with some phenomenal young players, great young receivers there, they have been putting up points for the last half dozen games to equal Calgary's offense. And yet in this game, obviously it's a case of two positives make a negative because both phenomenal offenses got completely canceled out by the defenses.
Both have pretty underrated defenses, though. Jones made his bones as a defensive coach, and Calgary has a pretty underrated defense.
Yep, they do. That's always the one part of Calgary that's rarely talked about because their offense is just so lights out that, yeah, no one really pays attention to their defense. But
doesn't their linebacker, Al Singleton, I can't remember his first name, doesn't he have like 4 games in a row of 10-plus tackles?
He does. He does. So I think that he's a strong candidate to be Player of the Year.
I'd like to see a defensive player.
Most outstanding player, the Mop of the Year.
That's one thing I do like about the CFL is its most outstanding player. So you eliminate this most valuable player debate.
Exactly. Yeah. So most outstanding. So the best in your position.
More leagues should be doing that.
They should.
In all sports.
That's very true. The last game we have this week is Hamilton Tiger Cats against the BC Lions. Hamilton won this one a squeaker, 24-23. BC now suddenly struggling. A team that was expected to challenge for the Grey Cup at the beginning of the year came into this game with a 1-4 record in their last 5 games. And Hamilton started the season 0-8, and they're just desperately trying to recover. They've now won 3 games in the last 4, so they're looks like they're starting to turn it around.
And the surprising thing is when they were 0-8, there was the controversial Art Briles hiring that got called off, and they looked like they would actually be such a mess that a turnaround wasn't even foreseeable.
Yeah. But yeah, they finally decided they fired their coach, Kent Austin, Hamilton did, and ever since then, new coach, new philosophy. It's almost like a fresh start for all these players.
Mm-hmm.
And amazingly, even though right now they're 3-9, because the East is so weak,
they're in the hunt.
They're in the hunt because so far they've only played 12 games, so they've got 6 games left. So they got a game on hand on Toronto. So right now they're 3 wins back, but should they win that game on hand, they're only 2 wins back, and you never know. 5 games left, anything happens.
This is more exciting than an MLB playoff race, pennant race.
Do they still have pennant races?
No. No, they don't. I miss them. But the CFL has races.
Oh, do they ever. So, and with that, it's now time for our epic and our suck of the week. So now we get to pick the one moment this week that we thought was epic and the moment we thought sucked. Body.
Well, my epic of the week is actually the Invictus Games in Toronto. So basically, these games are wounded service people, military service people, wounded and injured military service people. I believe it's from 17 countries, over 550 participants. These games help these people with their self-esteem, sense of belonging, and it's not just physical injuries we have to be aware of. We see amputations and physical injuries, but there's also a lot of invisible injuries. PTSD, depression, other physical or other mental disorders from just tragedies they've had to face. And this just helps with as a coping mechanism. It was inspired originally by the Warrior Games, which were developed in the States, and I believe the first Invictus Games were in 2014 in London. The 2017 Games are in Toronto. They were created by Prince Harry, and I think it's great. It just gives these people a sense of belonging and helps with their healing. So I think that's huge and should be given a little more attention. My epic suck of the week. The NFL owners. Oh, yes. Hypocrisy at its finest. They're out there this week, arm in arm with players, protesting the national anthem because Donald Trump said something on Twitter.
He was mean.
He was nasty. Meanwhile, Colin Kaepernick, the first guy to start taking a knee during the national anthem, doing it to protest police, wrongful deaths. And that's, hey, I think a lot more police officers are good than bad. I don't want to paint them with the same brush. I think we have a lot of great service people, but there evidently is a problem there. There's, the few bad eggs, and it messes up lives. There's some things I disagreed with what he did, and some things I agreed with. But meanwhile, this guy takes a protest for a legitimate reason, and he can't get a job. And meanwhile, the same thing he did for something serious that he can't get a job for, the same owners who won't let him in the league are doing the exact same thing because Donald Trump said something to them on Twitter. Shame on you, hypocrites! Epic suck of the week.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. My epic of the week goes to Anquan Boldin. For those of you who remember, he was a phenomenal receiver in the NFL for multiple teams. But what he's doing now off the field, you could argue is even more phenomenal than anything he's ever done on the field. So Anquan Boldin has basically decided to take up the issue of things such as any police brutality against black people and whatnot in the United States, and just humanitarian causes in general. So he has actually been on African aid missions for the last year. Over the years, he's become more interested in politics, and he's tried to form lobbying efforts with former players, trying to convince more former players to join him in his lobbying efforts to get laws passed and to have stricter regulations on policing and on just safety, security, and in general, and just generally trying to come up with programs and speaking with actual lawmakers, not just simply making protests in a game, but actually speaking to the people who make the laws, such as testifying in Congress, to try to start making some positive changes to help people in general, but more specifically the black community. So that is a beautiful thing. I love the fact that he's trying to bring in former players as well and give them also kind of a higher purpose in life. So Anquan Boldin, you are my epic of the week.
Kudos to him.
My suck of the week is the almighty Pittsburgh Pirates ownership. So, for any of you Pirates fans out there that feel that you have been suffering for quite a while, that's because you have. In the last 25 years, the Pirates have how many winning seasons? 3. 3 winning seasons in 25 years. That is the kind of colossal, how can I say it nicely, incompetence that literally in the dictionary there should be the only definition you need of incompetence is just put the Pirates logo on there and be done with it. That's enough.
Put a bunch of pirates on a sinking ship.
Sweet mother of all that is good and holy. 3 winning seasons in 25 years. Like by accident, playing a video game on legendary level and you would have a better success rate than this. This is basically a case of Robert Nutting, who's the owner of the Pirates for the last 15 years, simply refusing to spend any real credible money on this roster. Sure, he's gone out and he's created this little training camp in the Dominican Republic to obviously try to get Dominican players to the Pirates, and he's improved the training facilities in Florida. Fine. How about you actually go and buy a few free agents, and not free agents that are on their last leg and basically literally on one leg coming off broken limbs and broken minds. But how about you actually get a free agent who's in his prime and actually sign him to actual real money? Right now, I would even be fine if the Pirates overpaid for a free agent. Even if they gave away an Alex Rodriguez type of $25 million contract. At least it's a sign that they're finally willing to spend and to win. Right now, the Pirates, are and have been among the bottom 5 payrolls for the last 25 years, and it shows on the field. Andrew McCutcheon's career is being ruined. I hope he gets traded in the offseason to an actual good, credible team. He deserves it. Pirates ownership, Robert Nutting, you are my suck of the century.
Boom!
And with that, that is another episode of the Body and Mind Sports Show. Body, thanks again for another great show.
Thanks again, Mind.
Thanks again, and remember, please follow us and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Goodbye.